everyone, welcome back to their hardware news recap of the week. In this one, we talk about Intel Battlemage GPU architecture rumors. There's actually been a lot of them recently. Additionally, NVIDIA GeForce Now is going to cost more later. So they're introducing GeForce Now later, where if you use too much GeForce Now right now, then you have to pay more for later usage now. It'll make sense in the story, sort of. Also, AI is terrifying, but not for the reasons you think, mostly because it's going to tear us apart from within as humanity becomes increasingly stupid and relies on incorrect AI summaries. Wasn't meant to be a story, but it became one. AMD CPU market share has increased in other news, for desktop especially. There is a lot of handheld news, and we've got plenty more to talk about, so let's get started. Before that, this video is brought to you by Arctic and the Liquid Freezer 3, which we've tested using our standard methodology and found to be one of the most noise-efficient CPU coolers on our charts. The Liquid Freezer 3 includes Ryzen offset mounting to improve AMD performance and uses a thicker radiator to further lower the temperatures. Arctic has priced these competitively for AIOs, and you can learn more at the link in the description below. Up first, we have a donation drive going on right now for Cat Angels, which is our local no-kill cat shelter. We've supported them for years now. I like the group a lot. I've visited them. I've met their team. It is a small, focused shelter that's dedicated to rescuing, treating cats, fostering them out, or adopting them out. And they recently moved into a new space, so I want to get them over a donation to sort of finish outfitting it to make it exactly how they want it. Currently, we are donating 10% of all dice sales to Cat Angels. As you all likely know, we recently launched our tabletop gaming dice that I spent almost a year refining. These dice sets use sharp edge resin dice and come in a custom wooden box we made in CAD, including a roll tray. The Snowflake set, fittingly, has embedded tiny Snowflake the Cat miniatures inside and also includes a Snowflake playing card. But we're also donating the 10% donations for any purchases of our inductor dice as well, and that one includes embedded e-waste inductors in each die. Each kit comes with the 7 common tabletop gaming dice ranging from D4 to D20. Comes with a wooden box, and it comes with a card. So it's a Goblin Creature token for the inductor set or a Snowflake card for the cat dice set, and then both get the wooden box. There's also an RNG treasure table I wrote on the back of the warranty card, so if you play D&D, you might find something fun in there for your group. You can buy them on store.gamersnexus.net. Cat Angels doesn't know we're doing this yet, so I'm hoping I can surprise them with a pretty decent donation. Really looking forward to that. They have always been incredibly grateful for any support they get. So there was one time when a viewer donated like $20 or something and said GN sent me, and they emailed me and were like, oh my gosh, thank you. So they really notice it. If you want to just give to them directly, that is totally fine. You can bypass us if you want. I will link them below. I like supporting them. They're local, and they do great work here. Every time I see a stray cat, I can send them location, and they send out someone to try and help and figure out where it belongs. So anyway, that's linked below. This is going on until November 21st. If you buy from us, we'll do 10% of the dice sales to them through November 21st. Things they use the money for include just buying cat food, paying for vet treatments for the cats, adoption programs, foster programs, all that stuff, and then of course the shelter itself, which houses them. So, all right, first up in the news, Battlemage rumors are everywhere this week. Speaking of D&D, the thing that inspired Intel's naming. According to Golden Pig Upgrade Pack, which to be clear, we're still not sure if that name implies you get a Golden Pig as an upgrade or if your existing pig is upgraded to Golden status. Remains unclear. We'll send a team to investigate. But according to the upgraded Golden Pig, or the pack that is upgradable, Intel Battlemage may release next month. The hardware leaker wrote on Weibo, which has been machine translated, quote, looking forward to the wonderful performance of Battlemage desktop limit next month. We've previously reported that Intel was targeting end of this year for Battlemage or maybe early next year, and this rumor would corroborate at least the this year part of that if it's proven true. Now, if it's able to launch before end of year, what that does for Intel is get them in front of NVIDIA's RTX 50 series. This would be key for Intel because last time it delayed Alchemist, the first gen of DGPUs, recently anyway, into a position where it directly had to fight with NVIDIA's newest cards of the time, and it was pretty close to AMD's most competitive cards of the time in the same price category. So Intel launched into the worst possible market situation last time. They can get in front a little bit. They might be able to sort of breathe for their own marketing and maybe get some sales in for the holiday season and try to capitalize on that. So it's an interesting strategic play. This would also put them ahead of AMD's RDNA 4 announcement, which is rumored to be CES 2025. That'll be I think it's the second week of January next year. In the days following this rumor, there were more rumors. Gamers Nexus is reporting that Reddit reported that Tom's Hardware reported that Thomas Garonsky reported that Gazlog.jp reported that this Intel slide exists, which reports a December date for Battlemage SoC reportedly launching. Now this is the reason you come to us for the reporting, similar to when we do reports on announcements as the reporting reports. I think if you actually deconstruct that, it works. It's recursive. Tom's Hardware's report of the tweet reports, quote, again, will the average consumer go out of their way and pick Intel over NVIDIA and AMD, who've already established their foothold in the market? Question mark. I don't know, Tom. I went to you to find out the answers. Case in point, semicolon. It's not how you use those, so I'm gonna stop here. I'd quote Kurt Vonnegut, but that's probably not a good idea now. People who studied English will get a kick out of that, I'm sure. All right, next one. Intel says that Arrow Lake needs to be, quote, fixed. That's a good start. Arrow Lake launched with not only poor performance relatively, but also early software stability issues and BSOD problems. The pricing was also dismal, which may relate to Pat Gelsinger's gaffe reportedly nuking their pricing discounts with TSMC, which we talked about last week. Intel's Robert Halleck, VP of GM and Client AI and Technical Marketing, formerly he was part of AMD, went on HotHardware's podcast to discuss the 200 series launch. Here's how Halleck started out.
We've talked about journalists and hardware companies alike that a new platform is hard. Like anytime you radically overhaul anything, it presents new and sometimes unexpected challenges. And I think what people have been interested to hear is what happened. And I can't go into all the details yet, but we've identified a series of issues, multi-factor. They're at the OS level, they're at the BIOS level.
Halleck continued, graciously absolving reviewers of fault. That was awfully kind considering they made the product, and went on to state that the review results have spurred an internal discussion to try and figure out what happened.
I will say that the performance we saw in reviews, and to be very clear, through no fault of reviewers, was not what we expected, not what we intended. The launch just didn't go as planned. And that's been a humbling lesson for all of us, and has kind of inspired a fairly large response internally to get to the bottom of what happened.
First off, excellent save. Like A rank save, changing what went wrong mid-sentence to what happened. It was actually, genuinely, it was a very smooth transition out of that line, that phraseology. So secondly, it's interesting that Intel would frame this as a fix, openly implying that the CPUs are broken. Overall, we don't really buy this version of the event. Intel absolutely knew the performance it was going to have, and let's just pretend it didn't for sake of matching this version of the events where they're like, we were surprised that reviewers found the processors didn't work as well as we thought. If that's the case, and it's not just a situation of marketing speak, then the problem's sort of bigger because it shows that Intel at this point has absolutely no idea what it's shipping and doesn't know how to make a product anymore or predict its performance. That is the worst option. The better option is, wow, those results didn't match our marketing results because we were trying to pick better results. Like at least then it doesn't indicate this underlying deeply rooted issue with product level decisions. So
thanks, Steve.
Anyway, we suspect it's more of a post-launch panic to hunt for more performance after executives got wind of the CPU's reception. This also plays at the community, and Intel likely knows that. It's going to spur discussions of maybe the CPU is bugged or broken, and it'll get a lot better with some sort of microcode update or whatever the case may be. And that could be true. But we don't review promises. We didn't with Zen 5 either. But Arrow Lake's at least benefiting from all of Intel's Battlemage D&D references.
I think the bones are solid.
I think the bones are solid is going to be the catchphrase of my new necromancer when I roll the character who's named Arrowheart Ultra Death and glues bones together to make zombies. Did you see what I did?
So there's a disconnect between what we measured prior to launching this thing and what reviewers actually saw when they got their hands on the platform. And again, it wasn't their fault. We have a number of things we got to go fix, and that's the long and short of it.
HotHardware's Marco Geppetta asked specifically about memory and cache latencies, which HotHardware measured as high, and if they're the root causes for the poor performance. Here's what Robert Halleck said.
But when we got to gaming, the gaming numbers weren't quite what I expected. Was that sort of higher than expected latency? Is that part of the reason that the gaming numbers weren't quite as high as expected?
No, but that is an easy conclusion to make, right? Like there are past lessons on other CPUs that would lead you to that conclusion pretty easily, because nobody, like the problem space is actually multi-factor. We're tracking a couple of issues internally that can combine to produce some pretty wild unintended effects.
Halleck did, however, admit that some configurations produce memory latency around 180 nanoseconds when Intel expected apparently 70 to 85. Now, while that would impact some workloads, software isn't homogeneous, it's very complicated, and some of it can be more bandwidth sensitive than latency. Some of it doesn't care about either. Just depends on what the workload is. There's a lot more to the interview, including discussion about the trade-off of ditching hyperthreading. It's over an hour-long discussion, and you can check that out on HotHardware's YouTube channel or on their website if you're at all interested in the rest of it. There is a lot there. Ultimately, Halleck ended up making a commitment that Intel is going to provide detailed answers. Here it is.
But I understand the instinct to go to memory latency first. But the reality is there were BIOS, firmware, OS level issues that we need to solve. And I know people are like, okay, what are they? I can't say that yet, but my commitment to you guys and to reviewers at large and to users is we're going to come back with a full audit, an itemized list, and we're going to explain every single one of these. What was the perf cost, what exactly happened, and what we're going to do to fix it.
We're somewhat surprised to hear that Intel thinks it can turn Arrow Lake around in this way. More surprised that they're using the word fix. But with price changes, maybe they can do something here. It all hinges on value, and the value is awful right now. So that's kind of the key, that if they want to investigate stuff, that's probably the place to start. Now, we look forward to seeing the itemized list of issues and the resolutions. We will check them off one by one when it comes off and validate it, look for any significant changes made. For now, however, we still don't recommend Arrow Lake, broadly speaking. We can't recommend a platform built on promises, and it simply is just not price competitive. There are some very few sparing use cases where it might make sense for you. The 285K is maybe one of those in certain production applications. You can check our review if you want the nuanced discussion on that. But broadly speaking, just doesn't make a lot of sense at the moment for most of the options. All right, next one. Mercury Research has a new report. That's right. The reporting starts again to begin the reports. So this one highlights that AMD has gained 5.7 percentage points in the market recently, and that's over the last quarter, resulting in now a market share of 28.7%. There are basically two vendors here, so that's 28.7 to 71.3% for Intel. That's changed from second quarter 24 split of 23.0 to 77.0. Tom's Hardware notes that this is, quote, the largest quarterly share gain since we began tracking the market share reports in 2016, end quote. Intel still controls the lion's share of the desktop market with the remaining 71.3% of the pie here, but its Raptor Lake CPU issues and its more recent underwhelming launch of Ultra 200 don't bode well for the company's immediate prospects in the space. And even outside of gaming hardware, this can start to impact the B2B purchasing as well. Tom's Hardware generated this plot showing the quarterly performance from the Mercury Research market share results dating back to 2016. The plot shows Intel at 90.9% share in third quarter 16. Intel experienced a massive bump in third quarter 22 after a decline until then, but otherwise it's been on a steady downtrend now for 8 years. Notable events include Zen's launch in the first half of 2017. It wasn't, though, until the end of 2018 that we really saw that starting to chip away at the market share. That would follow the launch of the Ryzen 2000 series. Related to this, we get the special breakout topic of, I don't know what to title it over there, Steve worries about the future of humanity. How about that? AI makes Steve worried about humanity. We can go with that one. The It's really the AI part that's key here for the current existential crisis. So, related to this, I double-checked my memory of Ryzen 2700's release date by doing a quick Google search. Google's AI summary came back. Interestingly, on Twitter, some of you got different AI summaries for the same search phrase, which is concerning for different reasons. You start wondering, like, wonder what the criteria is for feeding one person an incorrect answer and another person the correct answer. How could this be manipulated in the future? No idea. Conspiracy theories? I don't know. So for at least my search, Google's AI summary said 2020 was the release date for Ryzen 2700, which immediately gaslit me into thinking I had misremembered it all of these years. I actually almost wrote that into the script, but was pretty damn confident in my memory, looked at the result, saw it said AI, and then dug into its sources. Here's the crazy thing. We're listed as one of the sources, and we're correct, but the result was wrong. Our article on gamersnexus.net correctly states that 2018 was the release year for the 2700. But again, the AI search result for us, the summary, was that it was 2020. So this unveiled a new layer of potential problems, which is that Google's AI search result summary can not only lead you to have an incorrect assumption based on what you think is valid information, but can also leverage trusted sources in a way to support those false claims, even if the sources are correct, which could then either make the source look bad if you don't actually click on it and check what they said, or make you really trust the AI result because it's saying, I'm confidently wrong, here's my source from a human. When we dug into this source for the 2020 date, we found it was referencing a later relisting on Amazon that appeared on 2020. Our article said the date of 2018, Amazon had the appearance of the product in 2020, and the newer listing on Amazon was after the original was either retired, out of stock, or maybe it just didn't find it. The AI summary ignored our correct release year information, ignored the correct release year information of thousands of other websites, and instead cited us for a performance statement. It then made no indication of a conflict between the literally thousands of review and website notices of the release date and Amazon's listing being wrong. Now, as for how we got this story, it's completely tangential and just because I wanted to rant about it. And I thought people should know how truly BS the AI summary results can be. And again, some of you all on Twitter, when you're responding to my tweets about it, said that you got different answers than we got. So that is also just, this could be manipulated in some pretty powerful ways. And the longer that we move into a future with AI summary search results, the less that people going forward will find it disagreeable or problematic. And so it's the people at the front of the curve who are going to be the most skeptical of it. We get 15 years down the line or 10 years, even less down the line. There's going to be some base, I Googled it type of answer behind the statements, except now it's going to be, I Googled it, got an AI summary that's wrong, therefore I'm right. Because I thought it was right, because it was the summary, because it wouldn't summarize something incorrectly. Clearly, that's our future. Oh, and also, there's definitely going to be errors in the future for articles, tech or otherwise, where the correction is, oops, we did not fact check the source, which was an AI summary of a source that may or may not have been correct. So that's great. And one more thing while we're on it. This actually is kind of like gaslighting, except from the AI thing, because I did genuinely spend about 5 minutes checking Tech Power Up, WikiChip, our own review publication date. Because like, surely we couldn't have published a review before it launched, right? Right? So that's, you can kind of run with that and see how can AI just gaslight people into thinking that their memory must be incorrect and going with something that's totally wrong. So YouTube's since rolled out this feature to videos. We would strongly caution against its use. This has been recent, like in the last month or so. I have tested it on some of ours, and it has been incredibly incorrect. It is actually impressive how wrong it was for some of the questions we asked. You can ask it to summarize things, and then it'll make something up and tell you that that's the summary. So long story short, media literacy has been dead for a long time. Arguing on the internet gets you points, and the more sources you have, the more points you get, and humanity is doomed. Moving on to the next topic, speaking of humanity being doomed into stupidity and misinformation as a result of an obsession with AI, NVIDIA. Beginning 2025, NVIDIA will introduce a 100-hour monthly limit to its two top-tier GeForce Now subscriptions, Performance and Ultimate. This amounts to roughly 3.5 hours per day, and according to NVIDIA, quote, comfortably accommodates 94% of its members. As for what happens when you run out of playtime, we assume you'll forego GeForce Now and have to purchase GeForce later. NVIDIA says that it'll allow you to bank up to 15 hours of unused playtime each month. Now, this is a 0% interest playtime account. We assume they'll also roll out a high-yield savings playtime account where you can get a couple percent interest on your banked hours. It's kind of like sleep. If you sleep extra today, you can roll it into tomorrow and just not sleep. Beyond that, users can purchase additional hours if the 100 isn't enough. It'll cost $3 for 15 additional hours of performance and $6 for 15 additional hours of Ultimate. The performance tier purportedly provides users with gaming rigs remotely that are capable of running games at 1440p, whereas the Ultimate tier cranks the resolution up to 4K at 120 FPS or 1080p at 240 FPS. To create some subscription-based FOMO, NVIDIA writes this, quote, GeForce Now, it's in all caps, so, is offering active paid members as of December 31st, 2024, the ability to continue with unlimited playtime for a full year until January 2026. Just remember,
the more you buy, the more you save. That's right. The more you buy, the more you save.
Speaking of NVIDIA, after numerous betas, its NVIDIA app, or NV app, has officially launched. It is supplanting GeForce Experience completely now. GeForce Experience, when it first launched years ago, we actually liked it originally. It had Shadowplay in it, which at the time was pretty innovative. You could basically back record data from gaming sessions. You can still do that today. But later, after that launched, NVIDIA put all of it behind an email wall. So you had to provide your email address to use any of it, which made us completely abandon it and move everything to OBS for our capture. Now, NVIDIA app has been, in some ways, a lot better. We've shown that in the past with the beta hands-on previously. NVIDIA is billing the app as one destination for optimal settings and driver options, and one app to find them. One app to bring them all, and for the appless bind them in the land of NVIDIA where Shadowplay lies. NVIDIA writes on the blog that, quote, NVIDIA app allows fine-tuning of game, program, and driver settings from a single place, while introducing a redesigned in-game overlay for convenient access to powerful gameplay recording tools, performance monitoring overlays, and game-enhancing filters, including innovative new AI-powered filters for RTX users, period. That is a really long sentence, but we're committed to accurately reading things with the right breath spacing. The company provides an image slider highlighting what RTX dynamic vibrance can do for The Witcher 3 as one example. It highlights how players can adjust visual aspects like saturation and intensity in Black Myth Wukong. NVIDIA also advertises that the app installs faster and its UI is more responsive, they say, than GeForce Experience before it. In addition, the app integrates a customizable statistics overlay that allows users to view their hardware stats. Overall, we've generally thought that NV app is a better implementation. They're trying to unify the control panel into it as well, which that's going to be a little more challenging because there's probably going to be some legacy features, some specific people need it for specific things, and you're going to have to figure that out. But definitely better moving away from some of the GeForce Experience and Shadowplay behaviors we talked about. All right, at Computex, a few years ago, SilverStone brought its FLP, or Floppy-01 to the show, and that was following the company's April Fool's joke previously. The FLP-01 was inspired by the Japanese NEC PC9800, according to SilverStone when we met with them. And the FLP-01 is an actual case that SilverStone actually made for a joke. The floppy disk drives fold out on the FLP-01 reveals USB behind it, so they've kind of modernized it. SilverStone just tweeted out a full build with its FLP-01 for an upcoming showcase in Japan. PC Games N found that ASCII.jp, via translation, states the FLP-01 will be released in 2025 for $130 US. It's a smaller form factor case with a specific and unique look, and if it comes to the US market, we'll definitely try and take a look at it. Up next, this week we have a ton of stories about handhelds, so we've lumped them all into one just sort of greater category. We'll start with Valve launching a new limited version of its Steam Deck OLED. This deck is white and gray. It's already out, or should be when this video goes up, for $680. The gray accents include the analog sticks and all the buttons except for power, which is still red. It's based on the 1 terabyte OLED model with no feature or spec changes. The upcharge is $30 over the $650 1 terabyte OLED. Again, pricing moves sort of day to day. It makes it more expensive than the original ROG Ally with the Z1 Extreme. That's potentially a hard sell for most people, considering the latter has better hardware, the Z1 that is. The deck can try to compensate with less numbers-driven features, or some that are a little numbers-driven, like the OS with its frame time pacing, or the more usability-focused touchpads. The Steam Deck is generally well-liked, but starting to get a little old, at least at a hardware level. Not as old as the Nintendo Switch, which people still use, but it's getting up there. In similar handheld news, Xbox's Phil Spencer confirmed in an interview with Bloomberg via IGN that the company is working on a handheld. Despite this uncharacteristically candid console confirmation, it's not going to show up anytime soon, as it's currently in early prototyping phases. Considering Microsoft's huge push to get the Game Pass subscription numbers up, one path for the handheld could be as a strictly cloud-connected device. But thankfully, that doesn't seem like what the company's targeting right now. Spencer commented saying, "I think being able to play games locally is really important."
Growth.
Moving on to more imminent hardware. Serial handheld manufacturer AYANEO has been slowly drip-feeding information about its next flagship, the AYANEO 3. There's no launch date or pricing yet. Maybe we could ask Google AI to make something up for us. The chassis is totally redesigned with lots of curved features, asymmetrical thumbsticks, and front-facing speakers. AYANEO will offer both LCD and OLED versions. It'll have rear buttons and trigger locks, presumably to shorten the travel. It's going to be offered with both the latest AMD 8840U and the new Ryzen AI 9 HX370. As a final note, it looks like AYANEO is going to have a version without physical face buttons or analog sticks, so this is pretty interesting. We don't have a specific detail for it yet, but it looks like the entire front is just one big piece of glass, basically a phone. It's possible that they're figuring out if there's a market for people who are used to gaming on their phones using touch controls or something. The last story in our handheld block is an early look at performance for the next generation of AMD's mobile solution, including the HX370 and 365. 1X Player posted a video comparing its new 1X Fly F1 Pro handhelds alongside the ROG Ally X and side-by-side synced footage. The devices are shown running with built-in benchmarks for Cyberpunk 2077 and Black Myth Wukong, both on the low preset. The on-screen display for each was set to show TDP and FPS. Bear in mind that we have no idea what the other test conditions were or if the OSD is accurate for either of these, but especially TDP. The devices differ overall, and being a first-party benchmark, it inherently can't be trusted, but it's an interesting demo, and we'll be probably testing at least one of the new wave of handhelds once they start popping up from more manufacturers and we get them in. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. As always, we have a ton of news we cut from this episode just because there was a lot, so we'll have another one up shortly. And we have best CPUs online if you want to see the CPUs we like the most for 2024. Well, some of them are older, but they make the most sense to buy anyway. So that's up. And then we have best cases coming up soon. We're working on that one right now. Hopefully best coolers. Basically doing all the roundups of the best things we've covered this year. We are not doing a best AI video because it's just, you know what, let's just move on before it finds out what I said about it earlier. I've probably already risked too. Anyway, that's it for this one. If I'm still allowed to be on this platform after complaining about Google. They're normally pretty good about it, but we'll see. You can grab our dice on store.gamersaccess.net. And again, until November 21st, we're doing 10% of the dice sales to Cat Angels. So you can grab that there. I rolled a 7 on a D12. And otherwise, subscribe for more. We'll see you all next time.